the path to spiritual mastery, and the nature of truth. This narrative explores the profound journey of a young initiate, detailing his transition from rigid religious instruction toward a higher, transcendent understanding of truth and selfhood. The limitations of formal institutions. The protagonist begins his development within the framework of the Essene Order, an organization focused on withdrawal from the world to pursue a purer life. Through his father's guidance, he learns that while organizations provide essential structure and security for the average person, they often impose artificial limits on the exceptional mind. The text posits that a truly spiritual individual must eventually surpass these structures, effectively becoming their own teacher and priest. The distinction is drawn between the physical, literal interpretation of scriptures, often associated with the Pharisees or Sadducees, and the spiritual allegory practiced by the Essenes. The core takeaway here is that organizational dogma, even when well-intentioned, can eventually become a shroud of mediocrity that restricts the soul's infinite potential. The trial of the isolation grotto. Central to the protagonist's training is the 3 days of trial within the isolation grotto, a ritualistic experience of death and resurrection. This ordeal serves as a metaphor for the shedding of physical attachments and the inward focus required to access deeper spiritual dimensions. During this period of sensory deprivation, the initiate moves through distinct stages of consciousness. Physical awareness, dealing with basic bodily needs and environmental sensations, mental introspection, recalling and synthesizing years of complex theological teachings. Transcendental realization, witnessing the rising light that signifies the transition from personal ego to universal power. This experience reinforces the idea that true knowledge cannot be taught, it must be lived and realized through one's own internal efforts. By placing his body in a state of suspended animation, the initiate learns to operate on a plane where time and physical presence are no longer boundaries, discovering that the universal power of the Father acts as the source for all genuine spiritual authority. Hierarchy of orders and the search for truth. The narrative introduces the concept of an ascending hierarchy of spiritual groups, ranging from the Essenes to the Great White Brotherhood, the Order of Melchizedek, and finally a nameless sacred Order of the Sun. The initiate's quest to understand these groups is framed as a test of his dedication to truth over security. His father and the patriarch emphasize that belonging to these higher orders is not a matter of physical membership, but of spiritual capacity. A key lesson imparted is that one cannot be admitted into these secret societies. Rather, one becomes a member the moment they can personally embody the truth such orders represent. The text suggests that the most sacred knowledge is so profound that it remains unnameable and undefined, accessible only to those who have abandoned the fear of the unknown. The integration of physical and spiritual labor. Throughout the text, the act of physical craftsmanship, such as doweling wood or polishing stone tables, serves as a reflection of spiritual character. The weathering of boards mirrors the tempering of the soul, where challenges and isolation prepare the individual for their ultimate purpose. The protagonist's father uses these mundane tasks to illustrate that true harmony comes from inner consistency. By connecting the physical labor of the shop to the high-minded discussions of theology, the initiate learns that there is no dichotomy between the work of the hands and the work of the spirit. All actions, when performed with an awareness of the universal power, contribute to the cultivation of an enlightened being. The principles of the initiate. The education of the initiate is defined by specific ethical guidelines that prioritize individual sovereignty over coercion. 1. Harmonious communication. Utilize questioning rather than antagonistic statements to avoid conflict. 2. Commitment to non-interference. Never impose ideas on another, nor attempt to alter their faith unless explicitly asked. 3. The priority of duty. Understand that one's life duty requires a specific balance of attachment and detachment, prioritizing service over personal success. 4. The supremacy of truth. Recognize that no specific religion or institution holds a monopoly on wisdom, for there is not, nor ever will be, a religion higher than truth. This code of conduct ensures that the initiate remains a conduit for spiritual wisdom rather than a seeker of personal power. It protects the practitioner from the pitfalls of ego and emotional attachment, which the text identifies as the primary barriers to attaining the highest states of enlightenment. By adhering to these principles, the initiate ensures that his progress is grounded in the reality of his own being rather than the superficial trappings of status or sectarian affiliation. Concluding reflections on transcendence. The story concludes with the initiate's realization that true mastery is not found in being in two places at once, but in understanding that the essence of being is not confined to a single location or identity. As he emerges from the tomb-like crypt, he possesses a new perspective on the unreal nature of the physical world and the actual nature of the spiritual one. The final exchange with his father confirms that the goal of his training was not to achieve a feat of magic, but to gain the wisdom that such states of existence are possible. Ultimately, the text serves as an educational bridge between the rigid dogmas of the past and a future defined by individual spiritual autonomy, where the pursuit of truth transcends all established boundaries of belief